Welcome back. Missy gave Sandra the date and time of the service for Matthew, and it would be held at Mark Methodist in Flint, which was the home church of both Mitzi and Maggie, as well as all the siblings. The service would be held in 4 days, only 2 days before Sandra's scheduled flight to Bermuda. Maggie helped Mitzi in planning for the homegoing service for Matthew. The day of the service was a sad one. Like her friend Maggie, Sandra saw Matthew as her father, the father she never knew growing up. For Maggie, as well as Mitzi, their faith kept their emotions in control at such a somber time. They realized from lessons taught at their church that only the physical body dies, and our spiritual body is released to be even more aware than our current physical minds. But we can't conceive of that truth in our natural minds until our own transition. This precept was difficult for Sandra to accept because she was still only aware of the physical part of our human existence. She had yet to be converted to the faith, a faith that considers all 3 aspects of our existence: body, soul, and spirit. The service itself was a simple one because that was what Matthew had instructed Missy to conduct. He didn't believe in all the formality and solemnness of a typical funeral service. He always thought it catered too much to people's emotions in reaction to the demise of the physical part of a person's being, while overlooking the fact that they still live in spirit. While Sandra was impressed with the strength that Missy showed at the loss of her husband, she didn't share Missy's demeanor regarding her response to his death.
Why, I haven't even seen her cry 1 time since Matthew's been gone. Now that's different. Kind of peculiar, if you ask me.
Sandra's sentiment reflected what it says in 1 Peter, the 2nd chapter, and the 9th verse, in the King James Version of the Scripture, that we are a peculiar people. She didn't understand Mitzi's response to a loss of someone so close and dear to her, her husband Matthew. While observing Mitzi's demeanor the whole time prior to the service, Sandra saw that she appeared to be largely unaffected by what had happened. Sandra continued to whisper to herself,
I'm sure she cared about him. After all, he was her husband, for crying out loud. Seems like I would have seen at least 1 tear. That Menzie. All I can say is that she's one strong woman.
Unlike Missy and most of her family, Sandra showed the devastation that she had concerning her surrogate father's demise. In her mind, he was gone forever, no matter that his spirit still lived, according to Missy's belief. The loss of Matthew was huge for the whole family, but their faith kept hope alive that he was still with them very much in spirit, and that they would join him in that dimension one day. But until then, Maggie in particular realized that she had work to do still, while alive in her physical body. Sandra, as well as Maggie and Fred, had ongoing challenges in the natural, physical existence that they would need to overcome. No one had more to overcome than Sandra, who needed a new spirit created within her, as well as to have her physical body healed. In Sandra's mind, her physical body was the major concern. She had a liver condition for which the doctors said only 2% of the world population could provide a suitable replacement. Would she find that match? Sandra figured that those chances were so small and that only a discussion with her inner self could provide an answer. That was the reason she would go to Bermuda, to find those answers on the beach. Sandra lacked the type of spiritual foundation that Missy and Maggie had developed, so it was difficult for her to make it through Matthew's service without totally breaking down emotionally. In the midst of the sadness that Sandra and the others felt, the minister gave the eulogy. Shortly after he approached the podium, the minister said,
"My brothers and sisters, it is at times like these that there's a constant war going on between the flesh and the spirit. The flesh part of people's being tends to focus on the physical body that may lay lifeless in a coffin, like our brother Matthew. Some may believe that's all there is to the person. But I believe that the person's spirit is released from the physical body at the time of transition. That is the time of death. And that part is still very much alive according to Scripture. Let me tell you, I believe our brother Matthew is still with us in spirit. Now let me tell you, that truth is a test of our faith, people, because we can clearly see his lifeless physical body lying there. But all thanks be to God. Thank God that's not all there is to his being, to our being."
Despite those encouraging words, when the minister had completed the eulogy, Sandra still wept bitterly, as she said repeatedly,
"Oh my God, he's gone. He's gone forever. He's gone."
Sandra's response to the situation, as grim as it was a reflection of her focus on Matthew's physical body, which clearly had no life as he just laid there, motionless, as the minister said. But Sandra had not considered what Missy tried to explain to her earlier about Matthew's spirit being alive. "That's the nature of the physical body," Missy once said to Sandra. Then she continued to tell her, "And that's because, as the Bible states, the physical body is taken from the dust of the earth and manifests through the miracle of birth. But it is at that time when God's Spirit is placed within all of us, the life of God within us." Missy explained the idea further to Sandra when she said to her once, "Now, Sandra, at our transition, the physical body is no longer useful. It will lie motionless until it's resurrected in the last day, the day of Jesus' return to the earth, which is the hope of every believer and clearly stated in the Scriptures." As everyone left the sanctuary, Sandra began to sob uncontrollably as she was being comforted by Maggie and some of the other members of the family. Sandra's spiritual life had yet to be developed much. Her level of spirituality was inconsistent with the environment in which she was employed at Faith Methodist Church. Sandra focused her attention on her physical condition, something that she would hope to address during her 3-day hiatus in Bermuda. Soon everyone would meet at Missy's house after Matthew's service. While there, Sandra poured out her feelings to Missy in a rare moment when they were alone together.
"Minzy, I know you and Maggie have gone through a lot with losing Matthew. I'm glad to be here with your family to share in the grief. And forgive me for saying I don't accept your idea of Matthew being in a better place. What I really meant was that I don't understand it. Anyway, it was nice to meet your other children who came home for the service. I just can't believe that he's gone."
The service for Matthew had concluded, and Sandra was poised to take the trip to Bermuda to find the answers to her life's situation. Before she made that trip, Sandra would return home to Detroit to begin her preparation. Well, that's all for today. In closing, I'd like to say, and would like you to remember, that whatever you may be going through, such as with Sandra in our story, just keep in mind that there's always more good things coming your way. We'll see you the next time.